All right, very excited to have Eric Min on the podcast. Thank you very much, Eric.
Thanks for having me, Ted.
My pleasure. I think that origin stories are the most interesting when you start from the beginning. So to our listener, you sound as though you could be from right next door here in New England or anywhere in Middle America. You've called home a variety of places. Can you tell me a little bit about where you are born and raised?
So I was born in Seoul, South Korea. My family and we moved over back in the 70s. That's how old I am. And we settled in New Jersey, settled in the Bronx, really a New Yorker, grew up, went to high school in Dobbs Ferry, which is just north of Manhattan. And then, really since then I've kind of moved around quite a bit, but deep inside, I think I'm still very much a New Yorker.
Yeah. And that, I think, is where we meet today. Is that correct? Are you in New York?
I am. I'm in New York. I'm floating around between New York, UK, Europe, and LA, where I'm official. That's my official residency, but I haven't counted the days. I don't actually spend that much time in LA these days.
Well, with any luck, you get some flight status along the way. So cycling becomes part of your life at a relatively early age. And I'm guessing it's in these early years that you're in the city and you overlap with our friend, Joao Correa. It certainly speaks to New York City's melting pot nature, because here he is as a Portuguese immigrant family. You're from South Korea, and I'm guessing you meet on the bike. Is that correct? Like, talk about the influence of cycling early on in your life.
I joined a local club called the Sleepy Hollow Bicycle Club in North Tarrytown.
Yeah.
And that's the same club that Joao started. So when I first met Joao, he was like 10 years old, maybe 9.
Yeah.
And his father, who was just, a real passionate cycling fan, just encouraged him to ride. And so he was part of the club. And it wasn't until I went to college that we pulled together money to buy him his first racing bike. So I can take a little bit of credit for buying him his first racing bike. But yeah, Joao and I go back quite a way since the 80s.
Yeah. And I mean, talk about how is it you stumbled on cycling? Were you doing other sports? Did you have family into cycling? How was that initial bug?
Yeah, when I was a little kid, I tried baseball, but my terrible hand-eye coordination, so I didn't get very far. I remember when I was a kid, my coach telling me to lean into the ball so I can get hit, so I can get a walk. That's how bad I was.
Your on-base percentage goes up.
And then I tried tennis, which I was actually okay at, but it wasn't until my friend, his name is Travis Millman from Dobbs Ferry. He was part of AYH, which is like an American Youth Hostel. Back then, it was all about promoting touring. So he got into touring, and I didn't have a car. It was just, as a kid, as a 12, 13-year-old, this is how you have freedom, right, to travel. So I got really into it, and the funny story is he's a bit taller than me, but I insisted that I get the same size bike. I think it was like a 56 centimeter bike. I ride a 49 right now.
Oh, wow.
How big it was. But I got stuck in touring. I didn't go very far, but this is how I kind of discovered the bike. And at some point I bumped into the Sleepy Hollow Bicycle Club. There is a triplet here in New York, the Whalen brothers, 3 identical triplets, and they ran the club, and they taught me all about training and took me to some races, and I had some early success, and that got me hooked. The training on Tuesday nights, these were incredible. Every week I was looking forward to these training rides on Tuesdays. And then on the weekends, we had the famous Gimbals ride, which still go on. I think I'm still the youngest person in that group. That's how old this group has become. But yeah, I fell in love with the sport pretty early. And it kind of overtook my life like it does for many people. And I was pretty immersed as a junior cyclist. I think traveled the country and did the whole junior circuit. And back then, it was actually a pretty lively circuit for juniors. I mean, you show up in a junior race, it'd be 100 juniors
Right.
back then.
Right.
And this is during the Greg LeMond era, right, when the sport was at a height at back then. So yeah, it was just cycling was a big part of my life, and it still continues to be that.
Well, yeah, especially in the Northeast. I mean, I'm thinking in New Jersey, you had a whole race week. You had, Tour of Somerville has tremendous heritage and history.
Nutley. I mean, on a given weekend, you could, being in New York, you could go to 3 or 4 different races on the same day.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. It was just a great, environment for juniors. And Joao was all caught up in that whole movement.
And I've heard you mention that you were invited to an Olympic development camp. To Joao's testament, he says, wow, Eric was very fast. What are your goals? Is it every junior's aspiration to become pro, or are you just sort of racing race to race, or do you know that this will only take you so far? What are you aspiring to at this point?
Well, I remember I was riding as a junior. Just had dreams of becoming a pro or going to the Olympics. And all of that was smashed when I went to the Olympic Training Center to get tested. Back then, we didn't know how to really train. I think I had like one of the first heart rate monitors.
Yeah.
We barely knew how to operate those things, right? They were like, yay big, and it was, on your wrist or on the bike, the first Polar ones.
Right.
So really knew nothing about training. But it wasn't until I went to the Olympic Training Center and they tested me, and I just didn't have the natural talent that allowed me to recover day after day. I'd be good for one day, but then the second, third day, my performance would decline. Whereas like my peers, they could just carry on. Race the guys like Mike McCarthy and a number of other people back then. The Minjoni team was pretty strong.
Right.
Those guys were the real talent. So that was a wake up call for me, and I said, "Holy shit! I think I need to figure out what else I'm going to do with my life." And I'm glad I found that early on, Ted, because, I think I could have, just lied to myself about what I could be and just kind of carried on for longer. And so I'm glad it was a wake up call for me because I just wasn't as talented as the kids around me.
Yeah. Well, a good realization at some point in life. So, in hearing your story, the next step in a very truncated chronology is making your way to JP Morgan, where you work your way up to a VP status. Now, there's obviously a lot to that, to go from, Olympic Training Center to JP Morgan. How is it you end up in finance? Is it something that you've studied? Is it interesting to you? Is it sort of like chase this, well, that seems like a successful job? How do you end up there?
Well, I was fortunate enough to have met my girlfriend back then, wife now, who kind of, got me on track. She was an intern at JP Morgan, and she just told me to apply.
Yeah.
And I did, and I didn't have the grades or even the credentials, but someone at JP Morgan liked me, and oftentimes that helps you. Get across the line. So I got into JP Morgan really on the technology side, and then worked my way into building a career developing trading systems at JP Morgan, commodities trading system. But if it wasn't for my wife, who kind of was wondering, like, why am I riding my bike? I'm not a pro. So it was, I was never very good at doing many things at the same time. I have to stay focused on one thing and just give everything to that one thing. So I quit cycling, and I said, okay, I'm going to devote everything to this. I quit cycling twice. One was to jumpstart my career. The second time is when we had our first child. Those are the only 2 times I just stopped because I needed to focus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't about finance. It was probably more about technology. But back then, there was a lot of technology need around in the finance industry.
Yeah.
So that's how it all got started. I actually went to college thinking I was going to be a doctor. I went into a pre-med program. I had it just like, the Olympic Training Center. It was a rude awakening. Like I cannot compete with my peers.
Oh man.
I pivoted very quickly. Thank God I didn't drag that one out either.
Yeah. Oh, that can suck the life out of you. So you migrate from JP Morgan to begin a company called Saconnet. Is that correct?
Yes.
I don't know if it's never. I always would bumble that Saconnet or
it's
Saconnet.
Probably Saconnet. As an American. Yeah, my partner, who's from Rhode Island, he grew up on Saconnet. It's part of Rhode Island.
Yeah.
But we've kind of westernized it and gave it anglicized and said Saconnet. Sounded more elegant, but it's probably Saconnet.
So, however we're going to pronounce it, I spent some time online. Saconnet is dedicated to excellence in trading solutions for wholesale energy markets. The company believes creative use of technology and superlative services together transform the user experience for trading floor productivity. Now, that sounds like a wonderful value proposition, superlative services, but to someone like myself who doesn't understand the energy market space, what does that mean to have started this company in a handful of sentences? What are you doing at Saconnet?
This was back in 1998 when many, technology solutions were all in-house. They're built in-house, or even if you bought a vendor system, it was installed in-house. This is way before cloud-based services that are, dominate the technology space today. So what we decided to do was kind of compete with in-house solutions and the big clunky, in-house installation, and try to build something that was cloud-based. Back then, it wasn't called cloud.
Yeah.
It was called application hosting services.
Okay.
So we decided that it might have been a better mousetrap because we'd been building these systems in-house for JP Morgan, and we started to see these vendors pop up offering these services, and we thought this would be the perfect time to build something that was all internet-based. This was we started the business right before the whole internet bubble. So we went through as a professional, we went through a whole recession. The whole market collapsed. But what we did was basically build a trading solution for oil and gas traders, which was a market. Just like you trade currency, you can trade equity and bonds, you can trade commodities like oil and gas. Mm-hmm. And what really grew the business for us was the deregulation of electricity and gas in Europe. Mm-hmm. So that was a big open market for us, and that's what prompted me to relocate to London.
I see.
Because that was really where the business was. Mm-hmm. We built a solution, and we were actually a relatively small company with a very, very big client, a German client called E.ON. We kind of ate off that one client for over 10 years. It's the scariest thing, like that. If you lose that one client, the business is dead. Right, the whole cost structure depended on that one client. Yeah, and we were fortunate to have that one client for a very, very long time.
Whatever begets success. So, Saconnet as a cycling team was just coming on the scene as I was making my way to the European peloton, and they were a force. It was a Northeast-based development team. So, I'm guessing the support of that team was your idea. Is that accurate? I mean, you still have a passion for cycling, even if you're not riding day in and day out at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to always find a way to stay involved with cycling, give back wherever and whenever we could. And we used some of the company resources to do that. It wasn't a big sponsorship, but we did sponsor the U23, then U25 Sakana team for a number of years. Matt Kuchera was a DS for a couple of years. And I think we turned out like 3 or 4 professional riders. One person went on to join the Garmin team, and Phil.
Sure.
Yeah, Phil is a he's an alum of. Sorry, Phil's last name is
Phil Guyman. He's
Guyman. Yes,
he's got to be the most noteworthy of the bunch. I think Caleb Fairley might have been part of the team.
Yes, Caleb was the one who ended up at Garmin, I think.
Oh, an impressive list of riders for how long the team was around, quite frankly.
It's a small budget team, but we are so passionate about that team.
That's awesome. So at some point you sell the company and you find yourself at a point looking for a job. How well and how long did you operate in the, we'll call it, fun employed space?
Well, I mean, I think the business, Sakana business for us, we exited that business March of 2014, and I started with my partners Zwift January of 2014. So I never actually took a break. So it overlapped for like 3 months.
Yeah, that's wild.
I mean, it was because admittedly, we were just sitting on paychecks for the last 2 or 3 years, so I had some time to think about like what I was going to do next,
right?
And not working was not an option, so and the idea of like working for someone after having worked for myself for so many years was also not an option. So the only option was to start another company.
The great approach.
But we really, going back to the concern I had about this one client, I wanted to do a consumer business because I wanted to know if we lost 10% of our customers, we weren't going to go bankrupt. So it had to be a consumer business, internet enabled, etc.
Sure.
So,
good foresight. And so, here we are 15, 20 minutes into the conversation, and I'm excited because were it not for the last sentence, we wouldn't have even mentioned Zwift yet. And that's sort of the crux of the rest of the conversation. You eventually land on cycling as the target of your next venture. And it reminds me of the expression, how do you make a small fortune in cycling, which is start with a larger one. Can you talk about the brainstorming period? Like, you want to get into cycling, but for this next project, are you looking at all cycling outlets, or is it sort of the virtual world exclusively that really is piquing your interest?
Ironically, the last space that I wanted to look at was cycling.
Oh,
so
for probably the same reason. You're like,
I said, I probably should not invest in my passion, because you could easily justify. I know a lot of people who, do events or own bike shops, and it's a passion play, and actually it's very bad business. So I didn't want to fall into that trap. So I looked at education, I looked at healthcare, I looked at other space that I had absolutely no expertise in. I remember my brother telling me, like, what are you doing? Like, you don't know anything about that space. So I'm like, what do I know? I'm like, okay, we know finance and I know cycling. So I thought, all right, maybe I should take another hard look at cycling. And so one of the ideas actually we looked at was, because I love traveling and cycling, and I still do. How do you make that experience much easier so that you can go and rent bikes in lots of different locations, and how do you do it at scale? So that one we looked into a bit, and you do the math, and it just doesn't work. So and then I stumbled across this idea because when I was living in London, I just can't be bothered to go outside if there's too much traffic, or it takes me 30 minutes or longer to get out of town to do the proper riding. I mean, I only have an hour and a half to ride. So I was doing a lot of indoor riding, and just to just to keep myself entertained. I bought everything, every product out there, every video you can think of. I was consuming, and not because that was the business I was pursuing, it's because I just needed something to keep me entertained.
Yeah.
And what I realized was a couple of things. One was like they all sucked. Okay. And but I came across this one product, and I have to give them a lot of credit because it's called Tortigero.
Okay.
It was a really clunky, kind of crappy product. It was a project by two IBM engineers out of Toronto or Canada, and they had built something. I don't even know if they were charging, but I used it, and I was there with a number like 5 or 10 other people. And while the graphics sucked, the experience was, the experience wasn't great. What I walked away feeling was like I was there with other people.
Yeah.
And that was the magic, Now, if you can make the whole experience better, right? You can make the graphics better. You can, everything that goes with the training better. I thought there was something there. And I looked at other products that were available, and they were all there were better versions. Like Tax had a multi-user player, but it was, the feedback I've heard was that it was just not reliable. This is way back. And there were a couple of other products that none of them were at scale. So the idea was like, I thought there was an opportunity to do this. And it was hard for me to say how big this opportunity would be, but I figured there were enough people like me who would want to be engaged, to ride with other people, to race and train and socialize. This is what I got out of Central Park. Like when I lived right next to Central Park, and while I was working at JP Morgan, I would go into Central Park like 5 days a week. I would race there, train there, and hang out there. And I simply just wanted to recreate that sort of experience in a virtual setting. And so, I just I remember writing the deck for it, the business plan for it, and it was just, I thought we could have millions of people doing this, right? It started out as kind of a dream, a solution for me, and sort of the gut instinct that others would find this interesting as well, and you just go from that.
It reminds me of, I have a friend who had a program, and we've probably heard stories like this dozens of times. He was technologically savvy. He created a program called, I think, Roller Cam, and cam short for camera. And it's, you ride your bike, you set up your laptop with the camera on you. And so it's like being in a chat room, except it's this conversation. It's as though you and I are on our bikes right now. And exactly to your point, riding a bike will suck less as long as we are talking to each other to break up the time. And so I'm going to reference this a little bit later. In meeting you for the first time, and you posed the idea, my mind immediately went to that. It's like people do want that experience. They want community. So backtrack 1 second. In many ways, Zwift feels like this wonderful confluence of events. It's here you are with an interest in getting into a business of cycling. You're looking specifically about riding indoors and finding that entertaining. I've heard a very entertaining story about you Google searching and finding John Mayfield.
Yeah.
You have a couple of co-founders, and Alaric from Sakana, and Scott Barger becomes a co-founder.
Yeah.
The question being, how do you, as you look back at this period, how does this coming together period, how is it characterized in your memory? Is it organized? Is it chaotic? Is it targeted? Is it a bit all over the place?
It was, so I knew what we had to do, but I need the team that can actually execute this. So Alaric, he's been a longtime partner of mine. He's also very technically, he can write code, right? You need a partner who can write code. But neither of us knew anything about video games. We knew that the right medium was video games, like 3D worlds. That is where you create this experience. It's not going to be through real videos. It's got to be through 3D graphics. And neither of us had that experience. So we knew like we had to find someone, maybe not even a co-founder, but who's the first engineer. So I came across John Mayfield. He had this interesting project. It was a single user experience, but it's beautiful graphics, more beautiful than others that I've seen. And became very obvious to us that he was not going to be just a developer. He would need to be a co-founder, because he would be bringing into the group IP that he had already developed, and we would be able to leverage that. And we were lucky enough to acquire through him the proprietary game engine that Zwift runs on. So there are other like third-party engines out there. We have our own, like many other, big games. They have their own engines. So that was an important missing piece that we secured, which is John Mayfield. And then the fourth person was Scott Barger, who I met through a mutual friend, Kevin Malloy. He happened to be out in London. We went riding. We were spitballing ideas before Zwift was even born. And so I don't even think he thought it was a good idea in the beginning, but somehow I just kept selling it to him. And Scott bought into it as well. And Scott was important because he brought a lot of energy to the project, right? He's so passionate. And whatever he gets involved with, Scott continues to be very, very passionate about. And I also needed a partner who could go to California to help set up the shop. I wasn't going to do that. I have young family in London still. So he and John together would set up the shop. Alaric never moved. He just remained in New York. And then I traveled back and forth. But it was the four of us, and we all had our roles. And it was, chaotic, but I knew, what we had to do was raise capital. My partner Alaric and I, we made some money from Asakana, so we were able to seed the business. But it was a rapid race of 6 months to get to a prototype that we can demonstrate to prospective investors. And we started with just friends and family. But I pitched to 200 people, and 100 of them invested. And so it was, I knew from my last business, like what I needed to do to get this thing off the ground, and funding. And that's probably my after kind of selling the dream, my biggest responsibility was like making sure that we had the capital to run this business. So that's what I did for the first few years, just making sure that we had sufficient capital to see this through. But it's been a ride.
I believe it. Yeah, it's probably on this whirlwind tour that is when we meet for the first time. I'm guessing the year was 2014. I think I want to say we were in California. I remember Dave Zabriskie being at the table as the other rider. And in this conversation, something you just referenced, you suggested that you're looking for this cross-section of indoor riding and the gaming world. And I was skeptical in leaving the conversation, but in that conversation, you said something to the effect of, look at the video gaming market. It has billions and billions of dollars and hundreds of millions of users. So we're just looking for a small section of that. And that really, it stuck with me. As a founder, you need to have a passionate belief in the success of your company, that it will succeed. How was that initial period? You talk about seeding 200 investors and having a 50% success rate. How well was the idea received?
It was well received. We put together a really great video, sort of, showcasing the end-to-end experience. That was all homegrown, and we did it ourselves. And it really, I think people just got it, right? At least my friends, and some of them didn't get it, but they knew that I had been reasonably successful in my previous venture. And so many investors base your, the confidence level based on your previous success. That's how it works. Right? So I had many investors from my last business roll their, money into this new business. But, I was in, full sales mode, right? And I was I'm sure people were getting tired of the pitch, but I was super, motivated and just excited about what this could be. But Ted, like, you were our first ambassador.
True.
And you remember you were a pretty big personality on Strava, and we knew that Strava would just be a great channel for us. So let's work with Ted, Ted, because through Joao, and see, let's have Ted start posting. And that piqued a lot of people's interest. And like, what is Ted doing in, in the South Pacific?
Sure. Oh, exactly. Well, exactly. I mean, that? Yeah, it takes something like the partnership with Strava so that the ride can even upload in the first place. And it's almost as though like that's a barrier to disbelief. So if someone is zooming in and out of the map and they say, what are you riding in the South Pacific? Which in a way reminds me of one of the barriers to viability that was difficult for me to accept was indoor riding is not outdoor riding. Like you're never going to have the perfect feel of a draft in a computer algorithm. And maybe it's because I'm not enough of a gamer that there are suspensions of disbelief that I was unwilling to accept at the time. But now we live in an age of hyper reality and VR headsets and feedback on our hardware and so forth, so that everything is getting more real. So I guess sort of two-part question. Is the goal to eventually make Zwift supremely real? And then overall, how do you look at that difference indoor versus outdoor riding?
Well, I think the making indoor riding real is always going to be challenging. You don't have sense of movement, right? You don't have the G-force,
yeah,
right? And as much as we can model the drafting in the game, you'll never feel the draft, right? Never feel that like you do when you're outdoors, where you're being pulled along, right?
Sure.
So that will never happen. Now, I think depending on the devices that evolve over time with headsets, I think it will be I think more immersive. But I think it will be very difficult. I mean, we've had Oculus Rift support from the very beginning, and the problem with it, with head, heavy headgear is that you don't want to exercise with something like that on your head, right? I don't even want to wear glasses. I wear contacts to ride indoors, right? So that is a real barrier. But I think it doesn't have to be 100% immersive. It just has to be good enough.
Yep.
And I'm not a proponent of like, hey, you should ride for hours and hours indoors. I think 60 to 90 minutes is perfect. You don't need to do any more than that.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And so where we win customers over is enough immersion, enough gamification, and the efficiency of it all is what people like. Because the reality is like, I can go outside maybe twice a week, right? I cannot go out. Most people cannot go out multiple days a week. So you start factor in how efficient it is and how convenient it is and how, you just get the work done. And that's what brings people back for more. Just trying to, we spent 12, 10, 11 years trying to make the whole experience easier and easier. And that's why we got into hardware, just breaking down the friction points, whether it's the cost of the hardware, whether it's the whole onboarding, like knowing what to do when you first arrive on Zwift.
Sure.
Make it easier to find your friends or the events. Because what I've found over the years is that consumers are extremely lazy. and you can profit off that. They are so lazy. Like, of course you can read the manual, but no one wants to read the manual.
Right. I'm here to pedal. Exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, yeah. And I've heard you in another interview, you say, admittedly, Zwift is not a skill sport and it's a bit of a time trial. It's a watts per kilo competition. So yeah, it's almost as though it is not meant to fill the void of outdoor riding.
We are trying to change that. Even with watts per kilogram, there is craft involved.
Absolutely.
Okay? All right. I mean, why does Freddie Ovett beat Matthew Van Der Poel on Zwift every single time? Because Freddie Ovett has mastered, like he just knows how to time. He understands the timing of when to sprint, how to sprint. And if you're not familiar with that, you don't have enough practice, you're not going to, get the most out of your performance. And that is all about watts per kilogram, right? Yeah. So there is some craft. Now, where we can add more craft is through further gamification. So steering, giving you choices of like the different, for example, different power-ups you can use. We have a mode that I want to bring back, which is it's like an E mode. So everyone has a battery. You can pick between 2 or 3 different size batteries, right?
Okay.
And you have to charge up the battery yourself. So like you have to pedal to charge up the batteries, right?
Yep.
Depending on the battery size you have, you suffer the consequence of a larger battery, right? It's gonna be heavy going uphill with that.
Yeah.
So like then you have to start deciding when to use it, when to charge it, and that is further gamification, and that's craft as well. And so not always the strongest rider will win if you deploy these things.
Yeah. Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Freddie Ovett Vanderpool example is a great one that everyone will know. In the fall, I drop in on a Zwift league.
Yeah.
And we have Kevin Bouchard Hall is a name that some folks will recognize, and he's our team captain. And he's on occasion will literally not even ride, but because we're doing everything on is it Twitch? What's the
Discord?
We have the whole team and we're communicating with each other, and it's like he's the DS in your ear in the back, and he knows all the nuances of when to attack, and he'll tell you hit it right here. And so certainly having strong watts per kilo is to your benefit, but to know the game, to your point, it makes it so much more fun. No different than having this community makes it so much more fun too. It's really neat.
So we are deploying more hardware so that we can do more gamification. It's got to be super convenient. So we have controllers, and more customers are showing up with controllers.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. It's neat. How about backtrack a little bit? You mentioned I was the first ambassador. I didn't know I had that superlative, but once upon a time, I also had the most followers on Strava, so I like these superlatives.
You and Yenzi.
And you outfitted me really well. So there I am living in Girona, and one day, I forget the exact process. I think one day in the mail, a large screen TV showed up, and I've been living in Spain for a half dozen years, and I never had a TV and a big stand and a nice trainer. That was amazing. Appreciated. Thank you very much, Eric. What was the question is, what were the other elements of seeding the product in marketing, early stages of marketing, did you employ to get awareness?
Yeah, well, working with the likes of yourself, Yenzi was the other person that we work with, right? Both connected to Joao.
Of course.
So personalities and social reach was important for us. We also did a lot of collaboration with biggest brands out there. When we launched at Rafa in London, New York, and San Francisco exactly at the same time. We had the biggest brands in cycling in the game already. Pinarello was in the game. We had Team Skyrider show up in all 3 locations.
Oh,
right?
wow.
So we and we hired a PR company. So we try to maximize the launch to give us a big boost. Seeding our ambassadors and making sure they had the best, experience and setup was super important for us. And we continue to do that as we, back then we had just the 2 of you. Now we have an army of people who, I don't know, they all have shown up. If you go to Instagram these days or TikTok, you see so many people promoting all sorts of cycling experiences and brands, which is really fascinating, right? We continue to do collaborations. That's still important for us. We have over the years, invested in traditional advertising. It just doesn't work. It's not authentic, and it's very expensive. To be honest, working with the likes of Meta and YouTube is very, very expensive. So we just have to be more nimble and work all the channels that we own, our own channels on social media, our own channels on YouTube, and then tap into a whole network of influencers and content creators and VIP, and that, and also, hopefully we'll talk about this, but, our association with the Tour de France is just giving us more visibility that's outside the traditional marketing channels.
Well, yeah, that was going to be the next topic. So very timely. I was going to say fast forwarding quite a bit, but then speaking of indoor and outdoor riding and speaking of marketing, here we are in the recent aftermath of a very successful Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift. You have supported the Women's Paris-Roubaix in years past. You've supported the women's tour for many years now. Can you talk about that initial decision of getting into explicit real world riding and how that's worked out, both anecdotally, but then also sort of on as an effect on the business?
Well, I built a relationship with Yann Lemoynier, who is basically the CEO of ASO. This is many, many years ago, because he was a customer of ours. Yeah. A very, very well-connected person. He's probably the most important, most influential person that people don't know.
Yeah. ASO is large.
Yeah. And so COVID hit. And I told Jan, I said, your tour is not going to happen this year. I already told my team, this was like February. I said, or January, February, I told my team, March Madness is not going to happen. They didn't believe me. It didn't happen. Right. And then I told Jan, like, the tour is not going to happen. And he didn't believe me. It did not happen. And so it was on the back of that. I said to him, like, why don't we, like, the team, they're not racing. Why don't we get the teams to do something on Zwift? We'll do a pilot, which was, we did a charity event with all the teams. And it was televised because the broadcasters needed something to televise during COVID. They were able to do this. And we raised money. The proof of concept worked. And then it quickly followed on to, well, let's do the virtual Tour de France. But I said to Jan, like, well, we said to Jan that we need to have women's Tour de France virtually as well, knowing that it would, if it's successful, it would be very difficult for them to commit to doing a women's Tour de France going forward. So here we are. We go through 3 weekends of virtual Tour de France with all the teams. It was televised in over 100 different countries, men and women, equal distance, equal prize money, the viewership. I mean, it was the only thing. Look, was it the most entertaining thing? I'm not sure, but it was the only thing that you could watch.
The only show in town.
Yeah. And it was really on the back of that we started to talk to ASO about, hey, what if we were to help bring back the Women's Tour de France? We think that's a huge opportunity for just, the markets, the women's cycling. And on the back of that, we created this promotion, Watch the Femmes. And that is that's bigger than cycling. It's like Watch the Femmes, whether it's WNBA, it's women's football, it's women's sports in general. So here we are, 4 years done with the Women's Tour de France. And I was there this year, every single stage, and the crowds were insane. It was literally the Men's Tour de France.
Yeah.
It was insane. Of course, it helped that they had a French woman in the lead.
Sure.
And then she wins, right? So I knew that all of us were saying, like, that could be the best outcome if a French woman wins this year's Women's Tour de France. And it was massive.
In speaking with Kate Veronu as a guest on this podcast a handful of weeks ago, she mentioned something to this exact same effect. What is a sign of success is in the days and weeks afterwards, you're still chattering about it, and we're still talking about, okay, it's gossipy and this and that and rider weight and so on and so forth. But like, it shows tremendous interest as cycling fans to the sport. And I think we've sort of almost given up hope on the men's tour for the time being because Tadej is so flipping strong.
Yeah.
Whereas, there was drama and action and I love the conversation of, okay, it's not 3 weeks long, the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift, but does it need to be? Like you have concentrated action for the period of time. And
there were 9 stages.
It's fantastic. It's phenomenal.
It's a lot of racing. No break. And I mean, it's a combination of, the fact that there are fewer stages. So people were going all out every single day. And also there were probably, 4 or 5, contenders for the overall, which made it super exciting. And if you look at women's racing, it's come such a long way in a very short period of time. They are using tactics like the men's peloton. I mean, many of the DSs are from the men's peloton, right? So you're starting to see that.
Sure.
But it's super exciting, and they are so talented. Yeah. They are so fast.
Oh yeah, it speaks to you said you go to the OTC, the Olympic Training Center, and you figured out that you have the ability to race for a day or a couple of days, but it's not until you're multiple days in that you start to feel the drag. Yeah, chronic cumulative fatigue is a thing, and so for these women to be racing 9 days in a row is a chore. Yeah. That is massive. That's so hard.
And they're not asking. Because I've asked a number of them. They're not asking for 3 weeks. They don't want 3 weeks.
Sure.
I don't know who's a proponent of 3 weeks of women's race, but I think it's too much. And in fact, I think 3 weeks for the men's race is too much these days.
It's highly entertaining because I know what I'm going to do for those 3 weeks every morning is flip on the TV. But 4 weeks. It's for the men's. I'm watching 3 weeks for the women's the following. Yeah, 6 weeks of that might get a little bit tiring. So,
well, next year there's a 5-day break between the men's race and the women's race. So nice. We'll find out if that's going to help us in terms of viewership, or actually it's going to hurt. But it's an experiment by ASO. It's incredible that they can even pull on 2 races at the same time. They overlap, for 3 days. It's incredible they can do that. But ASO is a massive logistics machine, know.
I believe it. Yeah. So the element of community has always struck me with Zwift. And I remember that from the very early stages where I would finish a ride, and on whatever forum I was on, everybody was so positive and they're psyched that I'm riding. And just in an age of negative online musings, it was great and continues to be great how positive it is. And it sort of promotes a natural gravitation because people want to go to this thing that is going to be inherently positive. Zwift has redefined indoor cycling for all intents and purposes. And now it seems like with this community, you're also redefining women's cycling with Tour de France, Femmes, Avec, Zwift. Is that the intention? I mean, I realize initially you're saying, okay, yeah, let's get some bike racing going, and there's a pandemic, so there's nothing happening in the first place. But it still is an inherent chasm between real world cycling and riding indoors. So, I mean, just talk about the...
Yeah. We're on this journey of hopefully redefining what cycling is. And we'd like to think, of course, this is our position, that cycling is you do it indoors and outdoors. That defines cycling. It's not just one or the other, right? And this is like the battle that we fought with the purists for a long time, but I think even they have kind of come over. So we're on that journey of cycling is something you do indoors and outdoors. And for women in particular, look, the roads are not safe, right? Generally speaking. Yeah. And so if you're going to bring more people into this, whether they're children, young children, or women, or even there are plenty of men who are just intimidated by traffic and big SUVs. So I think, riding less outdoors is probably one way to reduce the risk of getting hurt. That is for sure. So I think also if you want to be fit when you do go outdoors, because if you're not fit, if you're fatigued, you make mistakes. Yep. So we're on that journey of trying to promote cycling fitness, getting more people into the sport. There are many people who are starting out indoors and then buying their first bike. So this is one of the reasons why we got into, building indoor bikes, very affordable indoor bikes. Not all of them, but we're starting to see people show up on Zwift without owning an outdoor bike, because we sell the whole solution, and then finding that this is what they want, and then they buy a bike and then venture outdoors.
Yep.
And I think that's just a fine way of just bringing more people into the sport. On the back of the Women's Tour de France, we're seeing a massive increase in women's participation on our platform. Right? We know that it's working, and it is about the women community. Kate's doing such a wonderful job of promoting women cycling, and safety is an important part of cycling as well. So anything we can do to help facilitate that, get them started, teach them everything that we can teach them indoors, or the community can, before they venture outdoors. Right. This is, it will take long period of time, but I do believe in the future, when people talk about cycling, it will naturally be something you do indoors and outdoors.
Yeah. Brilliant. Beautiful answer. And I recognize, and I've heard you mention that you also rely on the community of Zwift users to help steer adaptations to the game, in hearing what people want. To that end, you also don't want to go down sort of dead-end rabbit holes. And so how do you steer the company, call it correctly? Is it through democratization with a great team? Is it...
I think, the risk is always listening to the loudest group. Yeah. And they may, point you in the wrong direction. So most of the happy customers don't say anything. So you have to rely on the data about what people are actually doing and not doing. And then you take into account the loud, voices. But we have a team of 300 people.
Wow.
And with, serious cyclists all the way to, hey, I don't own a bike, but, I Zwift. So we can collect a lot of data just internally about like what's working, what's not working. But we have to balance the crowd that is most vocal, because they're just passionate, right? But what you don't want, as you said, like take you down this wrong path that the other 98% don't want.
Right.
So it's a balancing act.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Well, in an effort to provide you with the rest of your day, we're gonna wrap up with 3 traditional questions.
Okay.
The first is, what is your favorite place to ride a bike? You've ridden your bike all over the world. We'll certainly open up a virtual answer as well. Number 2, what is the number 1 place that you would like to ride your bike that you have never ridden? Anywhere in the world or virtually? And number 3, with whom would you like to share a bike ride, a conversation, be across the screen, tap out a little conversation through Zwift? With whom would you like to go for a bike ride? So, favorite place to ride a bike?
I've ridden in lots of different places all over the world, but where I keep coming back to are the roads where I, rode as a kid. So, my backyard here in New York.
Sure.
And now I just venture further north and east, beautiful roads in Connecticut. I enjoy the roads here, most.
Perfect.
It's kind of interesting. Yeah. Where would I like to ride that I haven't ridden yet? I have not ridden in Slovenia. I heard the roads in Slovenia are amazing. So I don't know when I'll be able to get out there, but I've ridden in a lot of different countries. I've not ridden in Slovenia. The roads are good, which is important. So I'll have to figure out how to get myself out there.
Well, they're churning out talent over there in Slovenia. So
no
good
kidding.
choice.
Yeah. And then in terms of who I would like to ride with, I often think about, what I'd like to do for my birthday. Joao had his 50th, is it 50th? I think it was 50th birthday.
Sounds right.
He took everyone to Italy. I think that's my idea of like having fun, just bringing some old friends together from the junior years and beyond, and having a little bike excursion together for a week. That I think that would be exactly what I would want.
That's beautiful. That reminds me, I was the recipient of a surprise birthday party once, and I just felt so special that so many people showed up, right? And they're there exclusively for you. So it's almost the reverse engineering of that. You're like, well, I'm going to invite everybody and then do the number one thing that I want to do in a really cool place. So
no one ever invites me to parties, so I'm like, all right, I'll just have my own.
Yeah, exactly.
It's true.
All right. Well, Eric, I am very grateful to you for your insight, for your time, for reaching out to me once upon a time, and for creating this terrific platform. So thank you very much, Eric Min.
Yeah, thank you. And it's great to see that you're healthy and look great.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.